Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dubai and to the United Arab Emirates. You have assembled in a city and a country that share your concerns and your resolve to make a better world. We are proud to welcome you and grateful to have such a distinguished group of people gathered at Expo 2020 Dubai to discuss the role of youth in global social and economic development. Young people are who we are most counting on to build a world of peace, hope, opportunity, and prosperity that is so urgently needed. The Ministry of Tolerance and Coexistence, I thank them by organizing this forum, recognized their potential and has planned today's program to help identify ways to realize that potential. Together, we must find new ways to first empower our youth to be active, responsible, and confident citizens. Second, encourage our youth to understand and value their cultural heritage and traditions. Third, enable our youth to become economically empowered. Fourth, ensure our youth have the conditions for safe and happy lives. And five, provide our youth with a voice and with the access to an involvement in policy and decision-making at local and federal government levels. In the spirit of Expo 2020 Dubai, I see today's forum as a call for action to our global community. First, it is a call for action to countries of the world to provide all their youth with a quality, affordable education. Too often, we have failed to prepare youth to be productive participants in the global society of the 21st century. In this regard, I think the United Arab Emirates does furnish an example worthy of examining and perhaps emulating. Our nation's founder, the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, was intent on shaping a society that empowered Emirati men and women. Education, the country's fundamental priority. Sheikh Zayed provided the guidance, resources, and inspiration that developed into the knowledge society we thrive in today. It is also notable that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and the Deputy Commander of the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, is focused on investing our resources so heavily in education. The good education our country provides to our young people will shape our future and will strengthen our ability to participate in the global society and compete in the global economy. Second, this forum is a call for action in conducting a comprehensive analysis of issues related to education, training, skills, and employment realities facing youth in different countries around the world. Education alone does not satisfy an enlightened society's obligation to its youth. The biggest challenge facing many countries of the world today, particularly in our region, is to provide meaningful jobs for their young people. Young people left idle with feeling of little hope for the future become easy prey for evil. In the United Arab Emirates, we have created conditions that provide sound opportunities for productive work to the youth. Sadly, those conditions are not readily available in all countries in the world. In some places, sound education and training are hard to obtain. sometimes jobs are not available. We must all be united in our efforts to ensure that our young men and women achieve their full potential in satisfying and productive employment. Third, this is also a call for action to ensure our youth have developed a good and moral character. Youth today are faced with the challenge of how to influence events in their communities. The complexity of this challenge has at its heart a very simple question. Do they exert influence through violent action or through peaceful means? If peaceful youth participation in influencing their own future is not available, youth may become frustrated and tempted to resort to violent means. Our future requires that our youth act as responsible and moral citizens, as good people, people of strong character, who seek change through tolerance, compassion, and dialogue without resorting to violence. Fourth, the forum is a call for action to continue global efforts to empower women. The role of women has significantly evolved in our societies. To varying degrees, women around the world are increasing their education and participation in the workforce. More and more countries are coming to depend on women for their economic and cultural prosperity. We must vow to protect, preserve, and promote this change in women's status. The peaceful revolution of empowering women is not yet complete. If any nation is going to take its rightful place in today's global society, it must see the full and equal participation of women in its development. In the United Arab Emirates, we are grateful to the mother of our nation, Her Highness Sheikha Fatima bint Mubarak, who has always contended that women deserve the right to develop their full potential. Her Highness has acted on the conviction that communities best succeed when women of those communities are employing their knowledge, skills, insight, and energy in the professions, in business, in the arts, in industry, in education, in science and technology, in short, in every human endeavor, including the rearing of children jointly with their spouse. In the UAE, our women are doubling our strength as a nation. Fifth, this forum is also a call for action to engage with communities and communicate with youth. We must truly pay attention to their varied needs as they define themselves. We cannot ignore their perspective. We must talk with them. We must hear their hopes and their fears. We must seek and respond to their ideas. We must help them develop the practical skills they will need for life and career. We must include them as active participants in our conferences and initiatives about the future, which is their future. We must respect them as human beings. Our experience in the United Arab Emirates has validated the importance of engaging youth. Such engagement has promoted understanding, respect, and peace. Six, this is also a call for action to help our youth become truly global citizens. Youth today dominate the digital domain. As their education progresses and their contacts with other people multiply, they will have the opportunity to extend and deepen their understanding and appreciation of their own culture and heritage, as well as the global society to which they must strive to continue and contribute to its progress. They have an obligation to learn more of other cultures by comparing their own. This is important to the United Arab Emirates. As you can see here at Expo 2020 Dubai, as a nation, we are eager for our guests to experience our hospitality, to hear our language, to sense our culture, and to view our actions. At the same time, we have the privilege of conversing with our guests, learning about them, and viewing their actions. My dears, let me close on an optimistic note. It is my hope that the youth of the world will fulfill their goals and aspirations, and the goals and aspirations of their communities, even in the face of the challenging circumstances they encounter in the global society of the 21st century. It is my hope that all of us will recognize and honor our moral duty to help the youth of our communities become well educated, enjoy better health, have meaningful employment, become actively engaged, volunteering with worthy community projects, and have productive connections with their peers around the globe. Fulfilling that duty, like no other, will permit and people to progress and development around the world. Thank you very much. My best wishes for a successful forum. Thank you, Abdullah, for bringing all of these distinguished youth. Thank you.
Your Excellency Sheikh Nayyan Mubarak Al Nayyan, the Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence, thank you very much for your opening remarks. They were very well received. Thank you, sir. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the United Arab Emirates, and of course, welcome to Expo 2020 Dubai. Today's gathering is all about hope and creativity as we aspire collectively to build a brighter future for all. A future driven by the resilience and infinite abilities of youth worldwide. Today, it's all about you and the paths we trace as we navigate forward. This global forum aims to explore those many possibilities. Appropriately themed from youth to future thinking, this forum is already set on a path of infinite opportunity. Our first distinguished speaker shares the youth mantle with her global peers and has been very active in leading and charting projects that inspire and engage the nation's youth in adopting ideas that open up avenues of opportunity. Her chosen topic today is titled The Importance of Fostering Values of Tolerance and Coexistence in Our Youth. Please welcome Her Excellency Sharma bint Suhail bin Faris Al Masri, the UAE Minister of State for Youth Affairs.
Your Highness Sheikh Nayyan bin Mubarak Al Nayyan, UAE Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence, Your Excellencies, my fellow brothers and sisters. Happy Global Tolerance Day. On behalf of everyone, I'd like to extend our thanks to His Highness Sheikh Nayyan for authoring this day and for embodying the true spirit of tolerance in every way. What do I mean by the true spirit of tolerance? Well, what if I told you that tolerance is a four-letter word? I'm personally elated to join you today because I believe that the true meaning of tolerance is my favorite word, and it's L-O-V-E, love. And love is a verb. Now stick with me because I'm not about to share some pie in the sky sermon on love, but I want to make a case why the Day of Tolerance boils down to a call to love. Keep sticking with me. There are many words that are spelled like love. Two of my favorite other words are coexistence and peace. And the reason I say that they are love is because these words are not nouns, not moral philosophies, not ideas or political rhetoric. They might be merely used for that, but at their core, tolerance, coexistence, peace are all actions They are verbs, not nouns. Because if we tolerate, we love. If we coexist, we love. If we keep and foster peace, we love. And then we love as an action. And if we take action to tolerate our brothers who hold different religions or views from us, we are acting in love. If we take action to make peace and coexist with our Israeli brothers and sisters, even with long-standing conflict in this region because our ancestors and modern Arabs alike, we are acting in love in the UAE. And because of it, it requires us to act from more than just feeling. Love is something that we can cultivate in us. It's something that we can create together. And we don't have to wait to feel love to cultivate it. Now more than ever, we shouldn't wait, and we can't afford it. Now more than ever, our globally dichotomized world needs peaceful coexistence as its leading love song. This requires us to pursue knowledge of what love is and what's its form. What does tolerance look like in my community? What does peaceful coexistence look like in my religion? With love as our lens, what does our world look like where we are value connoisseurs of peaceful coexistence and tolerance? Just like we value food and drink, especially cheese connoisseurs. We always hear he's a cheese connoisseur. What does that mean? Connoisseur's root word comes from the word cognition and the process of acquiring knowledge and a fine taste. We always say someone cultivates fine taste in cheese. A connoisseur is someone who becomes an expert who has fine taste because she or he has spent time to learn about it. Let's say a cheese connoisseur, about how cheese are made or experienced. They can tell us what cheese we should eat because of this knowledge. They can enhance our experience of the cheese. We trust them because they're connoisseurs, because they have invested in cultivating their knowledge and their passion. Now, we all here are not going to be cheese connoisseurs, but we can all be connoisseurs of peaceful coexistence, and we can all be connoisseurs of love. What if we want to cultivate fine taste in the values and behaviors of peaceful coexistence? And it starts by listening. Then listening becomes inviting other people's virtues in our life and inviting the virtues that compel us to take action on them in small and big ways as a way of life. Either way, they make an extraordinary way of life. This is how you inject a vaccination of peaceful coexistence. And how do we know where this is or where there is need of love? How do you know where do we need to inject love or have a vaccine of love? It's by observing the cracks. And there was a great songwriter from Canada who said, there's a crack in everything, and that's how light gets in. So what if we lived every day of our lives by seeing the cracks or differences between us as lights, as invitations, as a call to be curious, as a call to be a good learner? What if we lived every single day looking to meet these cracks rather than looking away from them? This requires us first to see someone in front of us for who they are, not how they look like, not the way they look, not the differences that they represent, nor the role they play in society. What are the differences between you and this other person? And where is there an opportunity for light to shine through that difference? The answers may not be immediate or obvious to us, but they are there. And your practice of looking for the light in the cracks between us is the muscle we must practice and we must work on to be good at it. We must strengthen our love like muscles by repetition and by practice. And if we keep exercising love, I guarantee you light is going to grow. There's no limit to love and life we are capable of producing as human beings. When we see, we listen. And love is extending an ear. Love equals the dialogue that His Highness was just talking about, a genuine listening ear. Today is an opportunity to remind all of us that love is listening, and that listening must give us all the power to really see who is in front of us. And we must give that kind of love. And we must then dialogue with others who are not like us, not convince them of our way, but to really understand them and understand their way and connect genuinely. Because think of a perfume, a fragrance. It doesn't say I'm not going to offer my fragrance to good people and withhold it from bad people. A fragrance exists for everyone to enjoy and smell. A lamp, it gives light to the good and bad and the wicked all the same. The sun, it shines and the rain falls on everyone equally. This is the same and is true of love. All of us are worthy of love, and love is about inclusion and it's not about exclusion. So on the day of global tolerance, we need to remember that we must not just passively accept the person next to us is different. That's easy. You can just accept it. Anyone can do that passively. The day of tolerance is the belief and the belief of love in action. With all my heart, I believe that each and every one of us can put our beliefs into life-changing action. And as a closing, I want to close with Aristotle, who said the greatest virtue in life is courage. Today, I want you to look for opportunities and have the courage to perform acts of intentional, deliberate connection and kindness in your daily life. Make eye contact with the bank teller or the pharmacy clerk that you see. Smile at them. Hold the door today for a stranger. Slow down to allow another driver to enter your lane. Offer your seat to a crowded person on a bus, Offer someone their luggage down over the overhead bin. Today, His Highness just embodied an opportunity to love when we were walking down that aisle. He saw something that fell and he fixed it. That's a lesson for life. That's love in action. Notice the response you get. Notice how you feel when you see that simple act. My heart swelled when His Highness did that. You will delight others if you do love in action, but you also find that you will feel better. You will feel more energized. You will feel more connected. Because I feel like there's two kinds of love you can offer people. You can offer them compassionate love because you don't know what someone may be going through, but they might not open their heart. But a warm presence or a hello from you might bless them the peace they need. That's compassionate love. The other kind of love is celebratory love. This kind of generous gratitude and love when you see someone else being successful, when you see someone else shining. Celebrate each other's success because you are extending your capacity to be grateful. So finally, when we choose love over hate, when we choose curiosity over judgment, not merely avoidance, when you choose tolerance over divides, we are literally changing the cells in our body to behave in different ways. Love is a verb, and we need those verbs in action more than ever. Make it a great Tolerance Day, and may we all sleep tonight with a prayer of love for all our brothers and sisters. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that truly lovely speech. It was a wonderful speech indeed. Thank you for taking the time and talking about the youth and for sharing with us the ideas and examples that undoubtedly re-energize our collective thinking relating to the core values of tolerance and coexistence. We continue with a wonderful, wonderful forum that I hope you're very much going to enjoy because we've got an action-packed conference for you to enjoy today. It now gives me great pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Jethmavik Rama-Aki from the United Nations, and the United Nations Secretary General Envoy of Youth, who will join us from New York in a recorded message on the subject of leveraging youth creativity for a brighter future.
Excellencies, colleagues, fellow young people, my name is Jatma Vikramanayake and I am the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth. It is a pleasure to have the opportunity to contribute to today's discussion as part of the Global Youth Forum. And I thank the Ministry of Tolerance and Coexistence and the Federal Youth Authority of the United Arab Emirates for organizing this event. As we mark the International Day for Tolerance, I encourage all of you to reflect on the role young people play in fostering mutual understanding among cultures and peoples. This is as important today as ever as we look to recover better together towards a brighter post-pandemic future. Since COVID-19 emerged, we've come to understand that it's more than a global health crisis. Not only has the global pandemic triggered pre-existing and challenging patterns of inequalities and exclusion, but it has also led to the continuous shrinking of civic spaces online and offline. Digital threats such as hate speech and online harassment are on the rise, and young people's right to education and employment are increasingly being jeopardized. It is alarming that COVID-19 has also been treated as a rationale to further securitize our world. And we see this all happening alongside persistently negative and inaccurate narratives on how young people are at risk of becoming more violent or radicalized due to the pandemic. As a result, youth across the globe are continuing to lose trust in our global institutions. But we still have an opportunity to change this. That is why it is so essential that young people are placed at the center of our efforts to build more tolerant, resilient, and sustainable societies. Allow me to share a few key points in this regard. First, I would like to emphasize the importance of advocating for a positive narrative on young people as innovation, as change makers. A negative narrative on youth is counterproductive and has led to disproportionate resourcing of hardcore security measures rather than focusing on the role of youth in prevention or peace building. Truly resilient and tolerant communities can only be built by listening to young people, adapting our structures, and creating enabling environments that allow youth to participate and engage in their full capacity. Second, many of you will have seen the UN Secretary General's recently launched report, Our Common Agenda, which sets out detailed blueprints for the future of the UN and multilateralism. At its core, the report acknowledges that a more inclusive United Nations can only be achieved by ensuring more effective, diverse, efficient, and meaningful participation of young people. More than ever, we need intergenerational partnerships with young people to regain their trust in global institutions. Finally, although we are moving in the right direction, much work remains to be done. The way forward requires creating safe and inclusive spaces for young people to thrive, coupled with active support and resources for their ideas and solutions. Only by investing in the world's largest generation of young people and strengthening their trust in institutions, international and national, we can guarantee that young people will have the necessary tools to build a more sustainable, peaceful, brighter today and tomorrow. I wish you all the best for an interactive discussion, and I look forward to following the outcomes of today's Youth Forum. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you for that lovely conversation there. Her Excellency, Dr. Dina Asaf, is a long-time resident of the UAE and has an illustrious career as a diplomat, as a community person who understands very well the importance of encouraging creative thinking, especially within the youth sector. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dina Asaf, the United Nations Resident Coordinator for the UAE and Deputy Commissioner General of the UN at Expo 2020. Your Excellency.
Excellencies, partners and friends, and especially young people online and here today. It is a pleasure to be here with you in this important event, and I would like to congratulate the organizers and our friends at the Ministry of Tolerance and other partners for putting youth front and center in our celebration of the International Day for Tolerance. A few weeks ago, the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, launched our Common Agenda, which identified 12 commitments for the United Nations that the United Nations made to accelerate progress towards achieving Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. These commitments range from building trust to expanding digital cooperation, but they also include listening and working with young people. Additionally, with COP26 having just been concluded, the voice of youth was central to pushing the agenda, and the United Nations supported youth engagement through the Youth Advisory Group on climate change and other such initiatives. Youth will always be central to the UN's agenda and its engagement globally. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to further emphasize the importance of youth engagement beyond the various dialogues and conferences. When we refer to youth, we are usually referring to the next generation of leaders, makers, and influencers. Many are already in that realm, and some of you are here today, of course, but all will soon be shaping the future of the next generations to come. We must acknowledge that as human beings, we all have a role to play in the future of our planet and the health and well-being of our communities and countries. Youth are prevalent in all parts of society, and with the impact of digital transformation globally, more youth than ever before are interconnected, learning from one another, and influencing each other and those around them as well. The opportunities for global shifts is apparent and happening around us. We are all influenced by what we see, read, hear, and experience. And thus creative expression and the arts are a key means for us to influence the betterment of our communities and beyond. It is also a means to express challenges, desires, and aspirations in ways that reports and conferences cannot. Therefore, supporting youth engagement in creativity and the arts is an important avenue for change and impacting the sustainability agenda for a better future and for the people and our planet. We have to imagine something first before we can create it. And we need inspiration to reach a better place and a better future. Enabling youth to amplify their voice and influence our hearts and minds through creativity and the arts will foster better dialogue, better engagement, better understanding and empathy, and more compassion for the most vulnerable amongst people and planet. Additionally, innovative solutions and approaches are born through creativity, and fostering and recognizing creativity and the arts as part of our toolkit for change is a smart way forward. I therefore advocate for finding more ways for youth to express themselves, to engage with the arts and creativity as a form of dialogue and understanding. We need to democratize these inputs across all realms, including through digital sharing platforms aimed for a world where dignity, respect, and compassion are the driving force for policies and decisions that impact us all. Creativity needs to be cherished and recognized for what it means for all of humanity. I welcome all listening today to join our campaign to advocate for the SDGs through the arts as an example of sharing your voice. At the beginning of Expo, we launched a campaign with UAE-based artists to express their vision and inspiration for the various SDGs, and we showcased the results in the UN Hub here at Expo. We are now welcoming anyone to join this campaign and share with us their creativity and artistic expressions of the SDGs by tagging us on social media at UN_UAE. I'm leaving up at the reception some cards for this campaign, for those of you who are here, and for those of you who are online, you can find more information through our social media. And it is through such initiatives that we create a global dialogue and deepen our understanding of the issues, priorities, and hopes for a better future. Being at Expo, I would also like to congratulate the many bright creative minds that made Expo a reality, creating a magnificent feat in architecture, but also in programming, such as what we're doing today. The performing artists, musicians, designers, and all creatives who have made this experience unprecedented allow us to connect minds, dream, and create the future we want. I must also recognize and thank the UAE under the leadership of Her Excellency Reem Al-Hashimi for creating an expo unlike any before, where global collaboration, innovation, and creativity have flourished. I end by saying, each of us can make a difference. Each of us has a voice. Find your medium of expression and be heard. Become part of the conversation and part of the solution. I wish everyone an inspired journey ahead with the ideals of International Day of Tolerance front and center in all we do and all we aspire to be. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency. Dr. Dina, I've seen the artwork that Dr. Dina was just talking about, and it is truly wonderful. So I highly recommend that you take time out and go and pay it a visit. I'm now pleased to introduce one of our very own. She is indeed a member of the youth sector and leads a life and a career as a youth representative for the World Scout Bureau. She is resilient, creative, and a leader in the making with an eye on discipline, persistence, and constructive teamwork. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we welcome to the podium Ms. Noor Mahmoudi, who has traveled from Algeria to be with us today. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, hello everyone. I'm so pleased to be here with you to represent the World Organization of the Scout Movement. As you may know, Scouting is the latest educational youth movement with more than 57 million members from 171 national organizations all around the world. We aim to help young people to develop their full potential to be empowered, responsible, and active global citizens to participate in creating a better world. From the very beginning, the Scout movement has been managing diversity issues, which has included gender, social class, race, and nationality. Over the last 110 years, Scouting has updated to meet the evolving needs, expectations, and aspirations of young people. It has enabled young people and adults to understand and gain knowledge and competencies to face the reality of living in a multicultural world where we need to respect and value differences. I have been a scout since the age of 8. After 20 years, I'm super proud to say that Scouting helped me to learn that diversity means that every single person have the right to express his ideas and to make them respected and in his country. And tolerance is to celebrate that diversity. Tolerance is helping people, despite their backgrounds, despite their values, despite their ideas, to be recognized as a full, active citizens in their countries. When I was flying here, the lady next to me in the plane asked me, "Where are you going? What you gonna do?" and all sorts of these questions. So I explained to her what we're gonna do, that I'm gonna be speaking in this youth forum, which is part of the expo activities. And she gave me that look saying, "Ain't you a bit young to be doing this?" Well, I smiled and said, "Well, that's exactly why I'm doing this. And that's exactly why I'm keeping doing this together with a lot of young people from all around the world who are advocating for more meaningful decision-making inclusion for young people." To be honest, I just told you this story to highlight the fact that if we want to duplicate the Emirati experience in creating communities full of tolerance, communities full of coexistence, the decision makers out there need to understand that including young people fully in this process is one of the most important successful elements. Finally, I'm here to reaffirm once more that the World Organization of the Scout Movement is definitely ready to create and build a long-lasting peace and coexisting culture. But alone, we can't do this. We need your help. So whether you are a governmental official, whether you are an NGO representative, or just a young person who's really willing to help and create a difference, check out your village, check out your town. You will find a scout group there. who has a lot of activities and community service to do, and try to help them. As Her Excellencies, Mrs. Shamma said before, one act of kindness can do a difference. And we count on you to help us as Scouts to create the difference we're aiming for. Happy International Tolerance Day, and thank you.
Now, some of the things that's going to happen when you look out and see what can I contribute to, what can I give, I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have a voice that's saying, it's just no use. It's out of control now. There will be a voice telling you that you'll be wasting your time and wasting your energy and wasting your effort. I say, don't listen to it. Listen to that still small voice that says, I can do something, and I ought to do it. We ought to do it. Disraeli said this: nothing can resist the will of a people that will stake even their existence on the extent of their purpose for good. I strongly believe that all of us have some work to do, that each one of us showed up to do something, that each one of us showed up to contribute something to life, and that if we don't do it, it will not be done. Be it that you want to help and contribute to youth or do something for the homeless, whatever you want to do, if you get up in the morning out of a sense of ought-ness and decide that I am an opening for the universe, that life can work through and use me as a channel and as an instrument for change.
How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices: love or fear. Choose love, and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart.
Begin to see yourself as an opening for the universe, to move through, to work through, to make a difference in life. See yourself being used by life to improve the quality of life, to expand and to grow.
Well, if that isn't going to inspire you to make some changes in your life, I don't think much will. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to a moderated section of the next part of the forum. I'm pleased to announce that our next section will be, in fact, conducted as a moderated session. We're going to be introducing three change makers, three people who themselves have affected millions of people around them and on the path that they take have truly held a path to success. They are change makers in their own right. Our first speaker who flew from the United States to join us today is Mr. Param Yagi, the CEO of Hatch Apps. Please put your hands together for Param. Come and join us, Param. How are you?
Good.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Hey, everyone.
Param, I have to say, I think I've got a pair of jeans older than you, actually. You look very young, my friend. You look listen, tell me, welcome to Dubai, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your story, because obviously your young age is defying the ability in the business world that you have. So tell us a little bit about you for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. I'm Param, and for context, I'm 27 years old, so I don't feel that young anymore. But, so my story basically started when I was about 12 or 13 years old. I was the type of kid that always had a screwdriver in my pocket, and one of my first inventions when I was younger, I came up with this device called the EcoTube, which was a device that fit on the tailpipe of any car and reduced the carbon dioxide emissions. And the concept was to use the photosynthesis of algae and use that to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions from the car. Through that process of building that device, I got really involved with technology, and I think what happened was that both the actual invention of reducing the carbon emissions from the device and also the story of what that device stood for really inspired millions of people out there.
What age were you when you came up with that? Because most people, even of my age, haven't even thought of something like that. But how did you come up with that wonderful contraption?
Absolutely. I was about 12 or 13 years old.
12 or 13?
For context, I was the type of kid where I had a lab in my bedroom, and I was always hacking and building and trying to come up with new things. I think there is a misconception that there's this one aha moment.
Yeah.
It's more of kind of many complex systems coming together and then creating the idea, and then a lot of iteration that goes through that process.
When you were growing up, did you have, have you got competing attributes from brothers and sisters, or are you an only child, or was it kind of a war who could invent something first between your maybe family members?
Yeah, so I have a younger brother. We both have separate interests, but I will say that I did grow up in a very competitive environment. Growing up in Dallas, Texas, with my graduating class was about 1,400 students, and there were 3 of the high schools in the same city. So it was naturally a very competitive environment. And I think one thing I thought about a lot when I was younger was how to get very good at one specific thing. I think for me, that ended up becoming the whole concept of going from 0 to 1, basically inventing something that may not have existed before. And I think that took a unique skill set and perspective to get there.
Well, I certainly think you found a new home here at Expo 2020, because it's all about creating minds and talking about the future. And I think you're perfectly fitted to where this is your new home officially, anyway.
Well, the pavilion and everything is beautiful, so I may never leave.
That's a promise. Tell us about your current venture, Hatch Apps. What is that all about? And tell our audience how that can change the way that we all feel and think.
Absolutely. So Hatch Apps is a platform that lets businesses build mobile apps without writing a line of code. And so we're really pioneering the no-code movement. And the vision of the company is to allow anyone, regardless of their technical skill set, to be able to build complex software. So we've started with a platform that lets you pick a template, you can drag and drop, and build a mobile app for your business. But over time, we're expanding into other product lines, including being able to build websites, web applications, cloud infrastructure, APIs. So the vision is to basically let anyone be a developer and use no code to be able to build the idea they have in their head.
And how do you champion Hatch Apps to the business sector, to the companies that are out there in the world? What's your kind of hook to get people to come and find Hatch Apps for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we live in a time where just about everyone has an idea for what they want to build, and entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship is becoming very popular. We use our website and traditional B2B marketing to be able to reach our customers, but I think what happens is that a lot of people have these ideas, but they don't have the technical skill set to be able to execute on it. And so they use our platform as their partner to be able to build, grow, and manage their software.
So this is quite a difficult challenge to solve. I mean, you didn't start lightly there with this challenge. What gave you the kind of drive to solve this problem that was obviously you saw was out there?
Absolutely. I think one thing I think a lot about is going after very difficult challenges with the EcoTube, with the in the green technology space, and then now with Hatch in the no-code sector, and trying to democratize software. I think one thing I think a lot about is going after industries and challenges that kind of push the boundary of what people think is possible. And for our business, one thing we talk about internally is that even if we don't fully succeed in being able to democratize software for everyone, we'll have at least pushed the status quo for people to realize that this is possible, right? And so that's kind of how I think about these different industries and pushing what other people believe is possible.
One of the core messages and one of the core words that we use here at Expo 2020 is diversity. Obviously, we all hear that, and sometimes it's a throwaway comment, but how does diversity fit within the being of your organizations, Hatch Apps, and every other one that you're part of? What does it mean to you as a corporation to involve diversity?
Yeah. I think I actually have a slightly contrarian view on diversity and inclusion. I think that it's really easy to work with people that are physically diverse from you, right? So if you're a guy working with a girl, if you're white working with someone who's black, I think it's actually really easy to build in physical diversity into an organization. I think what is actually tougher is building intellectual diversity into the organization. So finding people that have different backgrounds, different skill sets, they have a different way of approaching the problem. And I think that takes a little more time to uncover than physical diversity. So that's something that we try to incorporate in our organization, is try to figure out, to find people from different backgrounds that may not have gone to the same type of schools or grew up in the same environment.
What would the message be for young people who you would encourage to get into and champion social entrepreneurship? How do people get involved and be like you, basically?
Yeah, so there's two things that come to mind. One is that I think we live in a time, because of platforms like Hatch or Squarespace or WordPress, I think we live in a time where becoming an entrepreneur is easier than ever. Yeah. It's really easy to build a website. It's really easy to build your product and get it out there. So the barrier of entry has reduced significantly in the past few years. And then the second thing is that I think even the word social entrepreneurship, I think times are changing now where we're entering an era where all entrepreneurship will be social entrepreneurship. Yeah, thinking about social impact and the environment will be inherent in any business model, and a requirement because consumers are demanding more from the businesses.
Now, you're probably not going to give it away, but what's your next big project that you're working on? I know you've obviously got Hatch Apps at the moment, and I don't want you to give away trade secrets or anything, not that you will, but what's the next big thing for you, Param?
Yeah, I definitely can't say exactly what it is. I do have the idea in my head. But I will say that what excites me is that concept of going from 0 to 1 in an industry that is new to me. And I think it sometimes takes someone from the outside to come in and kind of disrupt the incumbents in any industry. So I started with green technology. I'm in software development right now. But there's a few other industries that I want to tackle as I get older.
Well, time is nearly up, but just before you go, because I want you to give a direct message to the youth of today and our other speakers as well. What is your message to the youth of today and people watching this online, people in this room? What would be a bit of hope for them for the future?
Yeah, I would say that the video we actually watched right before I came on really summarized how I think about this, is that kind of be the change that you want to see. I think oftentimes we read these stories online about Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, and we think that we have to build this grand thing to impact other people. But we're living in a time where you can build anything online, you can do it yourself, and even if you impact one other person, that's considered a success. So basically, be the change you want to be, and know that the resources and the infrastructure is out there for you to do it.
Well, Param, we have run out of time. Listen, thank you so much. What a great speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together, Param. We're going to fist bump, sir. Thank you very much. Wow, 27. I don't even know that much information now, Param. Thanks for that. Anyway, Right, so we are moving on to our next speaker here today. An Emirati, a mother of 3 children, and a successful entrepreneur. It gives me great pleasure now to welcome and invite onto the stage Ms. Omaira Al-Alama, the founder of Advanced Learning Formulas. Please come and join us. Good afternoon, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure, our pleasure.
Hello, everyone.
Tell us a little bit about, well, let's start at the very beginning, Advanced Learning Formulas, how we introduce you. Tell us about that and what it actually is.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's quite boring. If you think about it, you can always Google search 20 years of all the things that I've done. What I'm more excited about is to see each and every one of you here and online, the younger generation. I think you guys are the future. And if there's one thing that I can say before we even start is that always appreciate when you come in a room and you're starting to watch a seminar, please wait until it's all done before you leave. No matter how, I always say this, no matter what position you are or whatever it is, it's always important to appreciate the effort that people put in to take the time and to come and to speak. And especially, mashallah, the youth, you will see this when you start doing your own presentations and seminars, and you will see that people come in and out while you're doing it, and it will dishearten a lot of you. And I want you to know that you are, mashallah alaykum, you are the future. Whether you are Emirati, whether you are the amazing expat young youth that we have here in this country, I want you to know the future is yours. And you alone will shape how you want people to treat you. And that's why I started Alif.
You should have my job. You're amazing, actually. Well done.
I think I'm ready to retire, but...
Wow. Listen, you've obviously experienced a lot. You're a mother of 3 children.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hurdles for people to get over starting a business, with whether it's Param or the other guests we've got coming on. What was the initial hurdle that you had to start what is a very successful business? What was the main thing you had to overcome? Is it because you were a woman? Is it because it was an idea that nobody thought of and didn't want to give you funding? What was the real hardship to start with?
Well, I mean, one of the things that prompted me to do what I did was I spent a lot of my time in the US. And being in the US and then coming to the UAE, already I was stigmatized as being an Emiratiya who was very westernized and very different from today's society. But it was a topic and a conversation that I had with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. And it was almost, if we don't talk about age, about 18 years ago. And I was the first Emiratiya criminologist in the UAE. And I was feeling very upset that day because, I was young. Now, not so much, but at that time, I was super young, and I wanted people to take the youth seriously. And I had great ideas, and I had great respect for all my colleagues who were amazing young pioneers. And the older generation, which today I am the older generation, but at that time, they didn't take the youth seriously. They kept saying, oh my God, the youth are they're lazy, or they're not gonna work hard enough, or we have to spoon feed them. And I was feeling really upset, and I said, that's it. I don't want to do this job anymore, and I'm gonna think of something else. And Sheikh Mohammed at that day was passing by the departments and saw me and said, why are you crying, my daughter? ليش تصيحين بنتي in Arabic? And I told him the whole story, and I thought maybe he's gonna be giving me some words of advice. And he laughed and he told me, okay, and he said, what are you going to do about it? I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, this should be your career then. You should think of what you're going to do. So my advice to everyone, especially the youth who I love more than anything, my whole business is based on empowering the youth because you're the future. And it doesn't mean that I have to sit here and say, all it takes is a pat on the back or a hug or whatever it is. No, I need to be your backbone. I need to be behind you. I need to be there when you make your mistakes because that's when it counts. Not just to watch you guys succeed. It's to watch you guys when you fall and pick you up so that you can continue to walk.
Wow. I think the hairs on my neck are still rising up. That's wonderful. Now, listen, as a mother of 3 children, what do you hope to install within them? What do you aim to give to your children who are the youth of today, but will be the adults of tomorrow? What's your message to them and our youth who are watching today?
You know, it was a very nice encounter I had with my late grandfather, God rest his soul. They used to always call him, and he always used to make me laugh because, you know, in Dubai there's a certain area called Al-Bastakiya.
Okay.
I don't know if you know much about that area.
I'm not familiar with
And
it.
my grandfather, God rest his soul's house was one of the most famous houses that everybody used to go. So the Sheikh Rashid, Allah yarhamah, used to call my grandfather Sheikh Ahmed Sharif Sultan al-Ulama, even though, you know, he wasn't a sheikh. But to me, he was my grandfather. And one of the things he used to always tell me is, Amira, it doesn't matter who we are, it's to remember to be humble. And that's something that has stayed with me forever, and this is what I teach my children. You have to be humble. You have to be not just tolerant in the term of tolerance or love or whatever it is. You have to actually do it. Actions are what speaks louder, not words. So it's very easy for us to say these kind of things, and this is why I teach my children, if you don't do it, there's no point to even say it.
Well, it's a case of almost like practicing what you preach. I mean, that's the way it comes across, because I'm a father. My son's 13, and he's getting to that stage where he doesn't want to get out of bed in the morning. You spend half your life trying to creep around and get some sleep, and then when they get to an age, you're trying to drag them out of bed all in the morning. I mean, it's a tough thing being a father and a mother. For me, what's it like at home with the business you run and the family? How is the work-life balance? And obviously you're an incredibly motivated lady, and I'm sure you share that with your family and everybody you meet. How do your daughters feel about you and look at you with what you've done?
I think whenever I pull up to school for anything that they have, they're always like, oh no, my mom is here again.
I think that's every child, quite frankly. Oh God, they're here.
You know, one of the things, and as you know, I'm also on the board with a lot of the KHDA and Hayat al-Ma'rifah. It's part of the education system here in the UAE. One of the things that I always encourage in the house and outside the house is creativity. And my husband, who's sitting in the audience, is, you know, super creative. And the whole point of getting our future out there is to understand that sometimes old school techniques just don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things I teach my children. Yes, all of us in my age group, you know, our fathers wanted us to be doctors and lawyers and engineers. But you know what? Today, if you want to be coding and you want to do all these amazing things, go ahead and do it, you know, because this is the future. And I think it's about time. And when I say this, because I see it every day, it's so easy for us to talk about how we want the youth to take over. But if we don't step down from our jobs, can they ever take over? Absolutely not. So I always believe once you hit a stage when you think you can just be as a mentor, I think that's when you need to do that and you let the youth take over.
Wow, thank you. That was wonderful. Amira, you hit our little countdown clock perfectly well. That was absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I know you are.
This was my TED Talk when they were like doing it and I would see the thing, you know, and I would see the audience like, you know, so I've learned from that.
Well, listen, Amira, thank you so much for joining us. Please put your hands together for Amira. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Wow, that was truly motivational. And yes, I'm sure your daughters are going to follow in your footsteps. Definitely. Right, our final chat today is with a very inspirational lady. She is a change maker. She is a motivator and a leader. She is a visionary. Joining us today all the way from the United States of America, Miss Amelia Brodka, the president and co-founder of ExposureSkate. Please give a warm welcome to Amelia.
Hello.
Hi, Amelia. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Or should I be kind of like, hey, dude? Or like,
You can go like this too, yeah.
There is a reason for me doing that, just not out of call, because you are all about skating, and you're all about skating in a way that is like, I'm not going to say rad, because I'm far too old to say something like that.
You can say rad.
I can say rad?
Yeah.
I just couldn't get away with it, I don't think.
Yeah, you totally can.
Stop saying no, I couldn't get away with it. Thank you, Amelia. So tell us a little about ExposureSkate and what it's all about and why it is important. I've got a lot of information about it, but I want it to come from you.
So, Exposure Skate is a nonprofit dedicated to empowering women and girls through skateboarding. And I myself have been skateboarding for over 20 years. And when I started, it seemed like there weren't very many female skateboarders. And it was my dream to be a pro skateboarder. And it seemed as though the only way to do that was to be invited to the X Games, which at the time was the biggest skateboarding competition, the biggest one that included women.
Yeah.
Because most of them didn't. And so I structured a lot of my life around this huge goal I had. And I finally got invited to be an alternate at the X Games. I think it was probably 10 years into my skateboarding. And so I got to be there. I got to practice with these women that I looked up to. And it was just this complete dream scenario. And then I thought, all right, I'm going to make it my goal to finally be a part of it the following year. Because as an alternate, you just skate in the practices. You don't actually get to skate in the show. And then I practiced really hard. I learned all these new tricks. And I submitted this video to the event organizers. And they said, Amelia, we loved your video. Your skateboarding was amazing. But the women's event was canceled. And my heart stopped. I just thought, wait, this was my dream? You canceled my dream? How is that possible? So
You can't do that. Yeah.
and I got angry. I got angry. I got frustrated. And this was before social media was so prevalent. And so I wanted to find a way to show the industry and the people who made the decisions in skateboarding, whether it was events, whether it was magazines, I wanted to show them girls skate and they're progressing and it's a growing movement. And I just thought, like, I don't know how to show them. And my friend joked one day and he said, yeah, maybe you should make a documentary. And so I just thought he was kidding. But somehow I just started filming things on my it was like the second iPhone that came out. I started filming and interviewing people and long story short, taught myself how to edit and did make a documentary out of it. But once it came out, it went through all these film festivals and I just thought, okay, well, this whole documentary was about how these women's events were canceled and how I want to skate and how I want to showcase women in skateboarding. And then I'm like, well, maybe I should just make a skateboarding event for women. And so I created an event called Exposure, and it was a one-time event that featured female skateboarders from all over the world. And the event within itself produced a historic moment in which we had the first ever female to perform a McTwist, which is a 540-degree spin upside down in competition.
As you do.
As you do, yeah. And because of how well it went, I just thought we should turn this into a nonprofit. So me and my co-founder, Leslie Cohen, just came together, and now we've been doing the event for 10 years. We just had our 10th anniversary, and the first year we had 34 participants, and we've grown to 230 girls from 15 different countries. And I'm sure, hopefully, that you've all seen that the coverage in terms of women in sports and women in skateboarding has grown, and so that's what Exposure Skate is basically. We started as one event, turned into a nonprofit, and now we have youth clinics and adult clinics as well.
So you have an operation there that is just outside San Diego in California. People come from all over the world to be part of it. You took up an idea that you were frustrated that day at the X Games. You made a video on the iPhone 3 or 4, you know. We'll let you off for that. But seriously. And then you found that there were other people like you out there. Your non-profit, though, is not just a non-profit organization. It gives back to some very special causes, doesn't it? And I know they're close to your heart. Tell us a little bit about that, because I find that fascinating when I was reading about you the other day.
So I want to make sure that all of our programs give back to communities in need that are impacted. And our main events, ever since we started, we raise money for survivors of domestic violence. And our youth program called Skate Rising, it gives back to a different community in need each event. So imagine 100 12-year-old girls in colorful helmets, and they're all excited to skate But first, they get to learn about ways in which our community is struggling and ways in which they can help. So they'll either make homeless support kits, and then we'll go give them out to the homeless, or they'll write cards for the kids who are in centers for abused families, victims of abuse. And so each month we try to do something different to help teach the youth about how they can help others.
That is very, very special indeed. Very, very good. You've got millions of followers on social media. You have.
Definitely not millions.
You have indeed. And if you've ever have had a chance to look at Amelia's project and, of course, your film, you'll find it online. It's very easy to find. And, of course, it is incredible. I like to ask all of the people who've succeeded in where they are now, but where do you go from here? What's the next little spark of an idea where your organisation can go and who you can help?
Well, what I would like to do next is to keep growing what we do with Exposure Skate, keep developing in new communities in order to have our youth program be able to reach not only more youth, but more communities in need, and just find new ways to help those who really need help.
That's great stuff. Now, are you still skating? There's a question that I knew some friends of mine who knew I was going to be interviewing you asked me, are you still skating to a level that you're happy with?
I actually just competed in the Olympics, so I'm still skating.
That was where I was going. I wanted you to say that as a fun. How was it like? What was it like being at the Olympics? What did you feel like?
Well, when I started skateboarding, that wasn't even on my radar. X Games was the main thing.
Yeah.
So when it became announced that skateboarding was a part of the Olympics, it was amazing because it kind of solidified the fact that all the work that we've been doing to showcase women in the sport has started to be seen, because every time an Olympic sport is introduced, it needs to have equal medals for men and for women. So the fact that it was able to reach that stage, and that so many girls and women around the world were able to see skateboarding on that world stage was, I can't say a dream come true, because I would have never even imagined that something so incredible would happen in my lifetime.
It has changed the way, we saw, if anybody watched the Olympics this year, we saw women involved in, skateboarding, of course, and BMX riding, and all the kind of cool things that were just for boys originally, and then the girls actually are probably better than the guys in some of the events. In fact, even here last night in Dubai, in the Fitness and Wellbeing Hub, there was the first time ever, everybody knows about 10-pin bowling, right? So 10-pin bowling, the World Championships were here in Dubai last time, and there's always been a competition for boys, guys, men and women, but they were always doing it separately. And for the first time last night, they got together as a team event where 2 women and 2 guys were on the team together. And so, not that that was directly inspirational for you, but the message is getting out there that people can work together, compete together, and it's not that men are better than girls and girls are better than boys. We're all equal, and we all should get the same sort of chance.
Yes, it's just incredible to see how much things are evolving and progressing, and how many more opportunities there are for women and girls in sports. It's wonderful to see.
Well, Amelia, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a great story. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Amelia. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, everybody, we have come to the end of our forum today. It's been an amazing time for me. I've immensely enjoyed it. I hope you have. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you very much. And motivated I very much am after your speech there, Amit, and all of you as well. Thank you very much for joining us today. As I said, we've reached the end of the Global Forum, and we hope that you have been able to enrich one another by exploring its diverse and rich program today. We look forward to seeing you all in our next edition of the Global Youth Forum. Please join me in giving a big round of applause to the youth of today, who are the promise of our tomorrow. Well done, everybody. See you next time. Thank you.